the next code challenge is to output a variable. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let's use our little comments. I'm going to say code challenge 1 alert. Okay, and since I don't want this alert necessarily happening, I'm going to just, those are comments, single line comments in JavaScript. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing here. Code challenge 2 variable output. All right, now we talked about variables. There are specific rules for variables in JavaScript. I'll go back to my list of rules here. So variables are words that are used to store or hold a particular value that may change during the execution of a program. So we might have something like an amount that we're constantly updating, or a score, something like that. So naming variables have specific rules in JavaScript. So your variable has to start with a letter, an underscore, or the $sign. Okay, it cannot start with a number. It cannot start with any other special character. Spaces are not allowed, just like in many other programming worlds. Spaces are not allowed. Spaces are not good when it comes to programming unless you need to have a space between your items. The variable can be as short or as long as you want, but don't go crazy. The other thing is it needs to be descriptive to help people understand the purpose of the code. So I worked with this guy who every single variable was foo1, foo2, foo3. And he was a great programmer, but it drove me absolutely crazy because if I had to go in and edit his code, I'm like, what are you doing here? No comments, weird variable names. That's not the way to code. You want to code so that somebody else can come into your code and understand what's going on. Okay, so the next rule is that it can be a combination of lower, uppercase letters, underscores, and numbers as long as it's after the first character. So let's go ahead and put some examples together of variables. So in our lab activity, it says to create a variable called my name. Okay, so type var my name equals. Now, my name, you notice it starts with a lowercase m and has a capital N. Now, this is called camel case writing, where since we're not using spaces and we don't want to necessarily have underscores, everything, we can use camel case where you start, the first word is all lowercase and then the second word has an uppercase letter, and then you can continue on from there. But again, don't get too crazy with the length of these. Okay, so my name, we want to put our name in the variable. So I'm going to go ahead and put my name. Of course, I can't seem to type right now. And again, the end of our statement, we want to go ahead and put a semicolon. Okay, so we have created a local variable. We have stored a name to the variable, and now we're going to output it. We could actually even do something like var my name and then my name equals. Okay, so we can make this longer, or we can do it, save ourselves some typing by just assigning it at the same time as we declare it. So either way works for us. Okay, now, how do we output the contents of the variable to the web console? So down here in CodePen, we have an easy way to access the console. And now the console is part of the web browser, and it allows us to kind of write messages back and forth that give us messages as programmers that certain aspects of the code are working. People other than programmers don't typically know what a console is, don't use the console, but it's a great tool for debugging and for doing input-output with JavaScript through the browser. So in CodePen, they have a little special section for that. So we're going to do something called, we're going to call the console log, and we're going to put in my name. Okay, so what that's going to do is we're passing the value of the variable my name to output to the console log. So it should show up down here. Let's save and run it and see if it works. And I have my window is a little smushed, so I had to open that up a little bit so you could see it. And there you go. Now, with variables in JavaScript, there's a couple things to remember. If I had something like, let's say I put in var my age equals, and let's say I'm perpetually 29, okay? Now, what is the difference between what I just typed in and when I typed in my name? So my name is a string, and you'll notice there's a space in it. It's a list of characters that are enclosed within quotation marks. My age is not a string. It is a number or an integer. You do not need to put quotations around the number because it works with numbers differently than it works with strings. So if I wanted to put something like my age in here and save and run, now you will see I still have my other time I ran here. So there is my name and there is my age. Let's go ahead and clear it. So I start with a new one. Now, another thing I want to tell you is that there is a difference in my age with a capital A and my age with a small a. Okay, these are seen as JavaScript as two completely different variables. So let's see what happens when I go ahead and run this. All you see here is my name. And I don't see any indication that there's any problem whatsoever. It didn't give me any kind of message whatsoever. So if you are writing code and it's not working, a lot of times you can go back and take a look at the last thing that worked. Oh, okay, that worked, but this didn't work. So you can kind of use these clues to realize that maybe there's a problem here, and then kind of troubleshoot from there. If the problem was in this line of code, like let's say I didn't have an equal sign and I clicked run, here I have a clear syntax error, so it's going to give me a little red exclamation point, and it says unexpected token, expected semicolon. That is not very helpful to us. But you'll notice where the red line comes up is it comes up at line 7, space 10. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's basically telling us that right here they're expecting a semicolon, so they're expecting you just to be declaring a variable called my age. So it's kind of giving you a hint that, hey, there's a problem here, without saying, oh, you forgot an equal sign in there. Okay, so try and take the clues that you're given. Debugging is an acquired skill, but right now try and take these little hints and see if you can try and figure out what's happening. Okay, so we completed code challenge number 2. We actually did more than we were supposed to. So let's move on.